When I was a kid, trick-or-treating was my favorite night of the year. I loved dressing up in a costume, going around the neighborhood with my friends, and collecting candy. One year, my friends and I decided to explore a new neighborhood that we had never been to before. It was a dark and creepy neighborhood, with old, abandoned houses and overgrown lawns. But we were kids, and we didn't know any better. We started off at the end of the street, and we worked our way up. We went to a few houses, and we got some good candy. But then we came to this one house. It was the biggest house on the street, and it was completely dark. There were no lights on inside or outside. We hesitated for a moment. But then we decided to go up to the door anyway. We knocked on the door, but no one answered. We knocked again, and still no answer. We were about to leave when we heard a noise coming from inside the house. It sounded like someone was whispering. We all looked at each other, and we could see the fear in each other's eyes. But we were too curious to leave. We slowly turned the doorknob and opened the door. The house was pitch black. We couldn't see a thing. We took a few steps inside, and then we heard the door slam shut behind us. We were trapped. We started to panic. We screamed for help, but no one could hear us. We were all alone. Suddenly, we heard the sound of footsteps coming towards us. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. We could hear the person breathing. It was heavy breathing, like the person was tired. We huddled together in fear. The footsteps stopped right in front of us. We could feel the person's breath on our faces. Then, the person spoke. "What are you doing in my house?" the person said in a deep, raspy voice. We were too scared to speak. Finally, one of my friends managed to stammer out a few words. "We're trick-or-treating," the person laughed and said. "It's not Halloween yet. It's still October 30th, we were all confused. We had been trick-or-treating at other houses in the neighborhood, and it was definitely Halloween. We didn't know what to say. We were all starting to feel really scared. "Now, why don't you all go home?" the person said. "It's not safe to be out here this late." We started to turn around to leave, but then the person spoke again. "Oh, and don't tell anyone you were here." We ran out of the house as fast as we could. We didn't stop running until we got back to my house. We never went back to that neighborhood again. To this day, I don't know if what happened that night was real or if we were just imagining things. But one thing is for sure, I'll never forget the night we got trapped in the house on Halloween. When I was a kid, Halloween was always an exciting time. The streets would come alive with spooky decorations, and the air was filled with anticipation. Every year, my friends and I would eagerly plan our trick-or-treating route, determined to collect as much candy as possible. Little did we know that one Halloween night would turn into a terrifying ordeal that we would never forget. I was so excited for Halloween that year. I put on my witch costume, grabbed my pumpkin bucket, and headed out with my friends to trick-or-treat around the neighborhood. We had a blast running from house to house, yelling, "Trick or treat," and collecting piles of candy. As the night went on, we found ourselves wandering into an unfamiliar part of town. The houses there were run down with overgrown yards. Even though I was starting to feel uneasy, we approached one of the houses. My friend rang the bell and we all yelled, "Trick or treat." No one came to the door, so we turned to leave. Suddenly, the front door swung open and a disheveled man stepped out holding a bowl of candy. He silently dropped a piece into each of our buckets, staring at us with a strange look in his eyes. A chill ran down my spine. We thanked him and walked down the sidewalk towards the next house, but as I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was following us. I glanced back and saw the man, still standing in his doorway watching us. As we continued on, I looked back again. To my horror, he was now following us down the street. My heart started racing as I alerted my friends. We picked up the pace, but the man continued to gain on us. Terror pulsed through me when I looked back again only to see he was gone. Just then, a hand clamped down on my shoulder from behind. I whipped around and came face to face with the man, a twisted grin on his face. We all screamed and made a break for it. Sprinting in panic through unfamiliar streets, one thought repeated in my mind: this was one trick-or-treat I wished I could forget. When I was a kid, Halloween was a night of adventure and candy. But one year, a spine-tingling encounter would forever change the way I saw the holiday. I dressed up as a werewolf, with a furry mask and clawed gloves. My friends and I roamed the dimly lit streets, knocking on doors and gleefully shouting, "Trick or treat." Most houses welcomed us with smiles and handfuls of sweets, but one house stood out. It was an ordinary suburban home, but the yard was eerily overgrown, and a single pumpkin on the porch glowed with an intense, unnatural light. I felt a strange unease as I approached, but my friends dared me to go up to the door. I knocked, and a woman opened the door. She was friendly, but her gaze felt intense, like she was staring right into my soul. She handed me a piece of candy, but it was unlike any other candy I had seen that night. It was dark and shimmered with an otherworldly glow. She whispered, "This candy is special, but it comes at a price." I took the candy and quickly backed away. As we walked further down the street, my friends encouraged me to try it, but something about it didn't feel right. I decided to keep it as a keepsake instead. As the night wore on, we returned home and shared our spooky encounters. The candy sat on my shelf, and it seemed to pulsate with an eerie energy. Curiosity got the best of me, and I took a tiny nibble. Instantly, I felt a surge of coldness, and my vision blurred. I dropped the candy and stumbled back. My friends rushed to my side, their faces filled with concern. I couldn't explain what I felt. It was as if something had touched the very core of my being. My friends called my parents, and I was rushed to the hospital. The doctors couldn't pinpoint the cause of my sudden illness, but they assured us it wasn't something natural. But thank God I did not eat the whole candy. Thank you for watching. If you like these scary stories, kindly like and subscribe to our channel.